us right now. We are so pleased to have you on. How are you doing, Jan?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good, good. We spend a lot of time talking about politics. Let's jump right in and get this going because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. So tell us what you're doing, Jan, and tell us why this is so important to you.
Well, I'm running for the 37th Congressional District. As you know, I am in the runoff, and the ballots are about to drop in the next couple of weeks. We have a county of Los Angeles that is a 100% vote by mail county. And so, you know, this is it. The last day to vote is November the 8th, but people can engage in early voting. Or eventually, once the polling place is open, they can take the ballot they receive in the mail and carry it into the polling place. No matter what, I've been out campaigning door to door in people's houses and people's homes of worship or houses of worship, and speaking to people as directly as I can about their anger, their frustration, the cost of gas.
Oh my God.
The fear of rise of violent crime, the cost of housing, the diminishment of people's communities. And, you know, everywhere I go, people don't realize it, but they're all kind of saying the same thing. And it all stems from anger, frustration, and a feeling that they are not being heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, would you say that people are being heard, or would you say that they're not being heard?
I think the piece that's missing that I talk about a lot, and I'm not sure that it's sinking in, people need to understand that they need to dig below the surface on who they vote for and where that person gets their money from.
Yeah.
Because that will tell you more than anything about the type of representation you could expect from that person. And, you know, you can go online. There's a website called opensecrets.org. It's called opensecrets.org. You can look up almost anybody on there and see where they're getting their money from.
Oh.
Okay. And I talk a lot about that. I talk about, you know, those committees that are not controlled by the candidates, and yet they put maybe $1 million into a candidate and pay for their mail and put their messaging out. And that person just sits back and says, all right, you know, I did this legislation for you. Now it's time for you to, you know, quid pro quo me, which is like, I did the legislation for you. Now you've got to reward me by supporting me as I run for this next office. And I really feel like I need to keep saying that until people hear it once and for all, and then start digging and digging and digging and stop, you know, saying, oh, well, you know, I voted for Mr. Jones for the last 25 years. And, you know, I know he hasn't gotten everything done, but, you know, who else is there? I don't know anybody else's name. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there, especially in our community, they'll go and vote for somebody just because they know their name and that's it.
Familiarity.
Yeah.
Familiarity. Not even if they're angry or they feel like, well, doggone it, I've been asking them for like 10 years to take care of this problem or that problem, and then they'll still go vote for them.
Right.
And it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't
make him drink. Yeah. And you know what, Jan, I am down on 114th and Central.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is absolutely simply unconscionably amazing that the city looks the way it does. And on one hand, people are excited about SoFi. They're excited about the football stadiums. They're excited about LA Live, all of these things, glitz and glamour. But you go a few feet, just a few feet,
right? Not
into the next city.
No,
just down the street.
Right.
And you've got deprivation on top of deprivation.
Well, you know, the thing I noticed that corridor, and the thing that's really just makes me so frustrated, and it's something I want to work on at the federal level. So there's a lot of women down on that corridor who are being sex trafficked openly.
Yes.
Right out there.
We've seen it. We've seen it on this broadcast. We've seen it. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, two couple of things I wanted to mention. First of all, you talk about name familiarity. Eddie Murphy had a movie some years ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but he had the same name of a candidate who died. And then he
Okay, I
started
remember
running.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it was kind of art imitates life, so to speak.
yes,
But
yes.
what I wanted to ask you, Jan, is are you familiar with ranked choice voting and what your feelings are on ranked choice voting? The way I see it is that we have this two-party system here, and I think the two-party system, particularly at the federal level, has really failed us. It's outlived its usefulness. And I see ranked choice voting as really the only viable way out of that system. How familiar are you with it, and what are your thoughts on it? And do you think it can get us out of this issue that we're in?
So let me tell you what I think of it, because I believe they use it in New York, correct?
Yes,
In
they
New York
have. Yes, they
City.
have.
That's
Mhm.
how Mayor Adams got elected.
Yeah.
So in order for me to answer that question, I would need to know how much influence money has in ranked choice voting. Because if independent expenditures still have a leg in there or a foot in there, and
But let me say this: what it does, even with the money in there, say for example, you've got five candidates.
right.
Most people like me, I would never vote for a third party candidate because it's a
Mhm.
way. Unfortunately, it's a wasted vote in today's world. In this two party system, it's a wasted vote. They just can't win because they don't have that money.
Yeah, but
Okay,
then you have a race like mine where this is Democrat versus Democratic race.
and they've done it in saying in
But how do you make
primaries
the distinction?
primaries. But
Now, my opponent, I think she's termed out now, but in the primary, she had lots of special interest money because she was a sitting elected official.
yeah, but see, what
So,
people can do is vote for their first choice. So let's say they don't like her, but let's say it's in the general election. They don't
mhm.
really like her, but like you said, people say, well, there's nobody else. Well, they can vote
Well,
for
but
the
if you're not
person.
well financed, then
Yeah, but see, but it will allow
yeah,
them to vote for the person that they really like.
yeah, that's true.
And if that person doesn't make it in, then their vote will go to a person like that.
So at the local level, we have programs for matching funds where, when you raise personal money, there's like, I don't know what it is in the city right now. It might be a 4-to-1 or 6-to-1 match dollar for dollar, but that's not the case yet at the federal level for these congressional races. But I do think just theoretically, if you coupled a matching fund program, maybe then you could level the playing field, because the playing field needs to be level among
Mhm.
all candidates, those with money or those with leverage to get money versus those who are just regular folks. And then the playing field's level, and you just get out there and battle it out based on, field operation, message, outreach, the quality of your candidacy and the quality of your work, you know?
Mhm.
But I mean, I think it's something worth taking a look at. We have what do they call them? What do they call them? This top two finishers here.
Yeah, and they
So,
do it in the runoff. A lot of runoffs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Runoff.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's why I'm in the runoff, because I was at the top, one of the top two
Mhm.
finishers.
Mhm.
So, I mean, people have different names for it. But that's what it is, top two finishers.
Yeah,
So
and with ranked choice voting, you have to get 50% plus one to vote to win. You can't win. They had an election some years ago, I believe it was in Massachusetts, where there was so many people running. The winner won with 20% of the vote.
Interesting.
That
Well,
is not representation.
here's another situation. Here's another thing to think about. Places like New York and Chicago, don't they have aldermen there and their wards?
they do. Yes.
So they have that infrastructure there that, it's almost like a feeder system. Whereas we don't have that here, which I don't know whether that's better or worse. Because, again, you always have to worry about where does the special interest money go? Where does it flow? And I guess I would make a decision based on where's the money coming from and where's the money going, and then who eventually wins. And I'd have to see how that worked. And if it worked against type, I think they may do ranked choice voting in West Hollywood too.
They might. I know they've done it in Massachusetts, New York, somewhere out west. I can't remember, and they've done it in other countries, and it's worked well. Now, now, and I tell you why. You know, it works well because the Republicans hate it.
No. Is that your measure?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it must be working. And a lot of people, and I tell you who didn't like it, who just lost because of it, was Sarah Palin. She just
Oh, yeah.
they just put it in Alaska, and it's so confusing. No, it is not, and let me tell you, it is not confusing. People that are saying that they have an agenda. If you don't want to vote for multiple people, you don't have to vote for multiple people.
I see.
Vote for the person that you want to vote for.
Yeah.
If you want to, and I tell you, if we had ranked choice voting at the presidential level, Hillary Clinton would have won because what's her name from the Green Party? Jill Stein from the Green Party. She siphoned some votes from Hillary, and I can't remember who the other person was.
Bernie.
I'm sorry.
Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders.
Well, he was in the primary. He wasn't in the general, but Jill Stein was in the general.
Okay.
But it had that happened, Hillary would have won because you have to Green Party. You have to assume that those people, if their Green Party person doesn't make it, they're going to vote Democrat. Those are not Republicans. Those are not these crazy radical conservatives. So they're going to vote. You have to assume that they would vote Democrat. Hillary would have won.
Wow. And we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Well, you just never know.
We have him to talk about all these years later. Okay.
Yeah, well, I try not to talk about it. I just want the AG in New York to just do what she needs to do.
Yeah, I do too. Just do what you need to do.
And in Atlanta.
And don't be afraid to do it. Well,
he doesn't seem to be afraid at all.
I hope she isn't. I hope she does what she needs to do and that he does not manipulate her. And remember, he's suing CNN right now. He thinks he's suing CNN.
He thinks that's not going anywhere.
That's not going anywhere. For
$475 million.
What really? Come on. On what really, that is ridiculous and a waste of paper.
Yeah, well, it's his paper to waste.
Gosh.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that, boy.
My goal is to be elected and focus on the work and not focus on, his shenanigans other than when they get in the way.
Yeah, and lots of folks want to get in the way. So, with you winning this seat, and I'm sure you're going to do that. I'm sure you're going to do that. You have been in politics for quite some time. You're very well known. You are cemented in, and you're not new to this.
No.
What can you do, or what can you say to the people that would help them feel better about the things that are going on in LA that you can change? I don't think in all my life I have seen as much crime, blatant, unadulterated, in your face crime 24/7. And I do blame Gascon. I think people were just asleep when they said, get Jackie Lacey out. You get Jackie Lacey out and then you bring this in. Did you know what you were doing? No, you didn't. And this is what you get. And Gascon, I'm just telling you how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel about it. Tell us what you feel about it.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that people tell me, and I feel it too. A fear, because I have a daughter who goes out and about, and I'm very vigilant now, much more than I have been in the last few years. Sometimes we hear gunshots out in the distance, outside at night, and it's something that nobody should have to hear. I represented South LA from 2001 to 2013, and things were off the hook then because, we were in the South Bureau, and the homicide rate was the highest in the entire city. And it broke my heart 3-4 times a week because I had to go and comfort families and help them figure out how to get resources to bury relatives who were taken from them, literally snatched from them by a bullet. And I still think about a triple homicide that involve young people that just disturbs me to this day. And the reason that it disturbs me is because I felt impotent, if you will, for lack of a better word, that it doesn't apply to women necessarily, but that why couldn't we do something to prevent this from happening? Why is it that as an elected official, a public servant, I can only help people once their loved ones have been murdered and not prevent it beforehand?
Yes.
That's what I want to change. It's the beforehand part. So for the last 10 years, I've been in a group called Black Women for Positive Change, where we've been developing de-escalation strategies, working at the federal level with some of the Congress people to, further ideas for legislation. And, we have an annual gathering where we do a month of nonviolence. And we've brought millennials in closer over the last few years because their voices are strong. Their concerns are relevant and valid and deep. And I think that they are the bookend to the concerns of our generation. Then the generations coming up behind them. So we've been doing a lot of work in that regard, and I intend to continue to do that and raise the profile on it in Congress, because it's the violent crime within our own communities, the mental health issues, the trauma that people have not recovered from, and also the whole issue. As you know, I represented Skid Row for 12 years, and it was never a strategy of mine to leave people on the street. The longer you leave them out there, the more you lose, the more they lose their humanity. And so, I spent many years getting people off the street, and I didn't do it alone. And I don't pay any attention to people who are in public service and they say, I did this, I did that, I did this. I did it with a team of people. I did it with a community of people to try to save people's lives. And we did. And we got a lot of housing built, got a lot of people into services. And I'm going to raise the profile on that too. Not just say, here, federal government's giving you some money, figure it out, and then not know where and how it was spent. I intend to be very involved because I have a lot of experience and I know what it means to be working at the local level and how you take federal money and you're supposed to spend it as it was intended, not to use it to close a budget shortfall or to, hire more people to, do something that they're not intended to do. Money has to be spent as it's intended and to be allocated where it is needed the most.
Okay. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. There is an overarching, however. This election is coming up very soon, very quickly. Yes. And as I said, I'm sure you're going to be in the seat. How much power will that give you to literally change the things that are going on in LA, specifically the homeless issue and crime? I don't know which is greater, the crime issue or the homeless issue. They're both
the homeless
out
issue
of control.
The issue of people being on the street here is a devastation.
Yes.
Okay. So there's no mincing words on that. And these are human beings who have been left behind. We don't need to keep studying it or analyzing it. We need to, it's beyond an emergency. It's a catastrophe.
Yeah, it's a pandemic.
Yeah, it's bad. There's a large mental health component involved in all of that. And so there's got to be a lot of recuperative work that needs to be done. And so, you can't just put somebody in a room or an emergency bed or whatever and not have the services tied to where that person will be housed, even if it's an emergency situation or a temporary transitional situation. The services, the mental health services, the medical services, they need to be there. And that is where I can make the greatest amount of difference, is in directed funding to consortiums, to service areas, service providers, to community-based organizations who are doing the work, and they need more support so that they can get more doctors and more healthcare professionals involved, more mental health professionals involved, to be able to service their clients more effectively and to keep them stable, and to keep them housed, and to put them on a path for recovery. So yeah, I can be enormously influential in that regard.
And mentioning crime, I know that the Supreme Court recently struck down the whole may issue as opposed to shall issue with regard to concealed handgun licenses.
Yeah.
Now, I live in Texas. I'm in Dallas, and I've been carrying. I've had my license for over 10 years, and I've been carrying. And I encourage Black men across the country, if you live in a state that you can legally carry, get your license and carry, because things are crazy out there. What is your position on that in California? Because I know that California, they went ahead and passed a law that says you can get your license, but they put a lot of restrictions on it about where you can actually carry them. There's one thing I read basically said there are so many restrictions, you can't carry it anywhere. You can get your license, but you can't carry anywhere. Like, I'm gonna be interested to hear your thoughts on people actually carrying guns with their license and the way California is handling it.
Well, I'm here in California. I'm not in Texas, and that's probably by design to some extent. Okay, so
Yeah.
guns make me very, very nervous, and I don't necessarily like them. I don't like to be around them, but I understand that people have a right to go through a licensing procedure with a waiting period and all the things that California requires, and I think that that's really important, because some of the mass shootings that we've had, I don't even need to start articulating that to you. You're as familiar with that as I am. So, I would not loosen what we do here. Texas is different and different history and a different perspective. I understand that. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't go toe to toe with you on that, but I believe in common sense gun legislation because I believe that is the approach that is much more likely to be adopted, to get passed, and to be successful in implementing. And so from that standpoint, I hear what you're saying, but we're a little bit different here.
And with that difference, do you think that, I'm sure you heard that Karen Bass, her house was broken into and her guns were stolen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rick Caruso said that he wanted to know where they were. Were they in a box? Were they locked up?
She said they were locked.
Yeah. She did. Right. She did say that they were locked and secure. And she also said that she insinuated that quite possibly she may have set that up, that she was behind that. Oh. And she also said that is the absolute most ridiculous thing that he could ever utter. And I think personally, that's a low blow. When someone has their home broken into, it doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
When someone has, especially a woman,
yeah,
that is a
very
violation. That's a very traumatic thing.
Yeah.
That's a very, very traumatic thing.
Yes, it is.
And for him to make a comment like that publicly.
Is he a Republican?
Actually, no. He as a matter of fact, he goes both ways. So
you said that now.
That's his problem.
What I said was
clear that up now.
Yeah,
what happened
was Democrat and Repub. So I don't. That's all I know. Democrat and Repub. So let's forget about the other part.
And
go ahead.
Let me just say this, and the way I see it, and actually I dropped off for some of your answer, but I'll go back and look at the tape. I see it. One of the big problems is that everybody, all of the politicians, they want to be the one that comes up with an answer. Say, arm the teachers, or they say, put 15 cops in each school, or like Ted Cruz said,
well, yeah,
lock all the doors. There's no ways in and out.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember, Jan, back in the old days, they used to come up with what they would call a blue ribbon panel.
Yes.
They would get the politicians together, or whomever. They need to come up with a blue ribbon panel of politicians, law enforcement people, gun experts, educators, psychologists, medical people,
Right.
a plethora of people and to get together and you have 6 months to sit down and here's $2
And
million
figure this out. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
figure this out what we
Figure
need to
this
do
out.
because
Yeah.
it's not going to be resolved by a knee-jerk reaction.
No, no. And not only will it not be resolved with a knee-jerk reaction, all you have to do is take a look at what's been going on, especially in LA. Today, there's a report that New Orleans is the homicide capital of the country. I'd venture to say LA is. I don't know. I'm not taking the numbers, but it is so often. There's another report of a rapper who was killed, a rapper from Inglewood who was killed over the weekend or yesterday.
Yeah, Half Ounce is his name. They found him in Koreatown.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Yeah. I read about that. That is just so.
And it is awful. The other rapper, Peanut Butter and Jelly, he was killed at Roscoe's. And what has happened and what I see is that it's business as usual. Nobody is stunned. Nobody is really thinking, oh, well, it's business as usual.
You know what I don't like is don't blame the victim. Okay. And yes, we need to teach younger people, don't go posting all your business on Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah.
And don't tell people where you are, don't go out, whatever. But I mean, that still doesn't mean you need to get murdered.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
No.
So, there's something wrong there between point A and point C. Okay. And it's just like the Nipsey Hussle thing. It's just ridiculous.
But I see it as also these rappers, whether they actually live that lifestyle or they're just what we used to back in the day call it perpetrating. Mm-hmm. That is something that they push out there. I'm a gangster. I do this. The guys carrying guns illegally, doing all these illegal things.
Yeah, maybe, but he was having dinner with his child and his girlfriend.
Oh no, I'm not saying the people that did it are without, but they are perpetuating that lifestyle. If you look up, and I'll show you this, Jan, the list of rappers killed in the past 20 to 30 years, it's up to probably about 120, I think, right now.
Okay, I think it is. I just mentioned that yesterday.
That's
on the
crazy.
Show. Yeah. And it is crazy. And it's happening like it's supposed to happen. Yeah. It's happening every single day. Every time you turn around, some rapper across the country is losing his life, which makes no sense. No. It's just all of these things that go on are absoltly this is the list. And we pulled
and look
this
on the right
up.
side, shooting. Look at this. These are all rappers. Back to Pop Smoke, Houdini, Huey King, Young Dolphin. And they haven't added this guy Half Ounce yet. They haven't added him yet. So P&B Rock was before.
Oh, God.
P&B Rock. And it's so they can't put all of them on here. They can't get all of them on here.
And look how young, young.
Look at how young they are.
18, 22, 37, 32.
36 is the oldest.
37 is the oldest one. Look at that. Oldest one was 37.
30.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and it's not happening in country music. It's not happening in rhythm and blues. It's not happening in blues. It's not happening. It's happening in it's the industry. They are perpetuating this violence, and it's decimating our communities.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right.
Yes, and we talk about what the next generation can do or should do or will do. How can they? How can they when this is what they have to look forward to?
Well, there's something unique about what's going on there, and I don't exactly know what it is, but and I'm not going to venture a guess because I can't stand it when people do that. But I think what I would do, I'd be very interested in, maybe their labels or whatever organizing tool they have within their own community to, get together and talk with them and find out what it is. It reminds me of, the early adopters of those people who worked with gang outreach here, the ambassadors, the interveners, the interventionists. And it may be that they need that in their own community. To divert and avoid and redirect. Because there's something going on here, and it's got to be more than just, I want your chains and I jealous of you because you're successful and I'm not.
Right.
It's
Well,
more than,
it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. That's on the surface, but it's deeper. But they've been brainwashed.
yeah.
You know, these people came into the music industry, you know, 30 years ago and told these young men, you're not going to make any money unless you have this negative rap out there. And it has just gotten worse and worse and worse. And people always come back at me and they say, you know, well, you know, white kids buy 80% of that music. Well, that may be true. I don't know, but that may be true. But guess what? At the end of the day, when they go home, it's all Leave It to Beaver. You know, they are not trying to live that lifestyle. They may listen to the music, but they're not trying to live that lifestyle.
They don't buy into it.
Trying to live that lifestyle, and it's getting them killed. And if you notice, the rappers that are getting killed are not people that you've heard of. Now they may have some
exactly, yes,
notoriety on some level, but of course after Tupac and Biggie and stuff like that. But the Snoop Dogg's and Dr. Dre's and all these guys, they've got their money. And they're isolated.
Yes.
They're isolated from it. So they're not getting shot like this. And I would also like to say, you know, other people post where they are. I'm having dinner at this and nobody goes and shoots them. It is only happening in that industry. It is endemic in that industry.
But that's what I was saying. There's something that's unique going on within that community that causes people to react that way. And I don't know, and I can't guess as to what it is. But there's something very, it's
sinister, very sinister going on.
Very sinister and very, very nefarious. And it's simply, it's tragic. It's tragic beyond repair.
Right.
And what can be done about it? And who will listen?
Well, let me just say this. What can be done? You asked the question, what can be done about it? I think one reason that I'm different than a lot of people. I believe in asking that community, any community, what can be done about it. I don't have that complex where I say, I'm going to tell you what I think we should do about it, because I'm not sure what would work. I'm not sure what the root causes are of it. And I want to go beyond the usual rhetoric, because there's something very specific and unique about what's going on in that community. I would involve that community, even if they needed to be protected, in terms of protecting their identity and all that, to be able to get input from them as to how they think it could be stopped within their own community.
And do you think you would have any success?
Yeah, absolutely. You spend time talking to people who work in these reentry programs, Second Call, for example, with Big John Harriel or Skip Townsend. And, the thing is you can never let up. They need sustained funding, but they actually do make a difference. They do make a difference because people have someone to turn to who has the lived experience that they had, except they actually recovered and moved forward. And that may be a door that should be unlocked and thrown open even wider. Because I don't know that I have the answer. And I don't know, I don't know everybody's background here in the Zoom, but
yeah, and I don't know that anybody, again, like the gun situation, I don't think anybody has an answer. I don't think there's one particular answer, because I was speaking with one of our folks the other day, and she said, of course, a lot of these young men feel that they've got nothing. They've got nothing to lose. They've got no hope.
Yeah.
So if you couple that with this promise of bling and all this money and all these women for a few short years while you're here, and they figure they're going to die anyway, what's the big deal? Right. So it's something we have to do in our community to give hope. And there is another way out.
And they don't think that there is. That's just it. Even at the high school level, they don't think that there is a way out. They have lost all hope.
Yeah, but I do think that there is a way, and there are people out there who are doing the work now. They need to be supported, and they need to have their profiles raised, because they do good work, and they come from that space. and they understand better than any of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that may be the road to an answer.
Yeah.
But it can't
Yeah.
be a one-off. It has to
No.
Yeah,
be
yeah, no.
sustained.
No, it
Mhm.
can't. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it has to
because
be
this,
sustained.
right. And this has gone on entirely too long. When you take a look at that list and you
Mhm.
see how far back it goes, this has gone on for entirely too long.
It's a
Just-
generation.
Just the generation, just as the people who are out of homes, that has gone on for entirely too long. How do you think? What makes you think it's going to correct itself? And just because the state gives the city money, it's going to go away while everybody is being paid and the people are still living on the street. It's
Right.
not going to go away like that. It's
No.
not going to go away like that. And why would anybody think that it would? These issues are not new. These issues are being perpetuated day after day after day. And it's got to stop. It has got to stop. The damage is so far past. It has got to stop. It's going to take 2 generations to wind this back. It's
At
going to
least.
take at least 2 generations.
Right.
At least. And what I see, and please tell us how you feel about this. A whole lot of Black folks are losing their lives. Lots of Black folks. Hispanics are doing it one way, Black folks are doing it another way. But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the hope is that you're running for the 37th congressional seat.
Right.
You'll be spending time in Washington. You'll be spending time in Sacramento.
I'll be
How-
spending time here and in Washington because I need to be involved. And
Yes.
the thing that keeps me awake and informed is the relationships that I have with the people who live in the communities that I want to represent. So I can't, go away and disappear. I have to be here and present,
Invisible, yes.
and not just visible, but accounted for,
Mhm.
and interacting and talking and understanding what's going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't be any different than anybody else who's disengaged, and I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that type of a congresswoman. I want to be very involved on the things that are large and the things that are small. And I think as you go across the country, you see a repetition of the issues over and over and over again. I mean, I mentioned to Kenny, I'm here in California. So, there's certain things that we may not have to deal with in the same way that you do in Texas. One of those things is a woman's right to choose. So,
Yep.
a lot of the women from Texas are probably going to be streaming out of there and trying to come over to California. So the issue on a women's right to choose and your reproductive rights will be, how do we take care of everybody who's here and still be open to and welcoming to women who are coming from other states where
Right.
they don't have that freedom anymore,
Right.
and that's a cost factor too that we'll have to wrestle with. But we can't abandon people.
No.
And that's what, again, elections have consequences.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this is a sanctuary state, and LA is a sanctuary city for everybody.
Right.
And Gavin Newsom just stated that any woman that wants to go through that procedure can come here and get it done.
Well, interestingly enough, the far right people, they even wanted the Supreme Court to outlaw contraception. So you can't prevent it on the front end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can't prevent it on the back end.
Back end.
And ask them, and then they say, well, there's adoption, and and as a matter of fact, I just read today, there's some congressperson somewhere, I forget where, who's saying, well, maybe we ought to do things like give discounts on diapers.
Sometimes you get to the point where you just gotta.
What is it? Who are these people? And unfortunately, Jen, it's gotten to be that point. People don't care about saying the most outrageous thing you've ever heard in your life, and they have people in the background going, yeah. And you're sitting there going, are you effing kidding me?
Discounts on diapers.
Yeah, discounts to help these women who've been raped by their father or their uncle or someone, and they're going to have to carry the baby to term. So discounts on diapers. Maybe we'll give some discounts on formulas and make it easier. Give a couple of $100 tax. Are you kidding me?
That is exactly the same kind of thing that was stated by Greg Abbott. Well, we're going to go and arrest all those rapes.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get rid of the rapes.
We're going to get rid of the rapes.
Oh, and I can report there have been no more rapes in Texas since then, by the way.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
they're gone.
Yeah.
It's a thing of the past.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going
well, hopefully you all get it right this time and vote for Beto.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see, I'm a gun guy, and I did not like the fact that Beto said, yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s because I've got a couple of AR-15s. But a couple of weeks ago,
oh my God.
You want me to get it for
Really?
you?
Were you in the military?
No.
What do you need an AR-15 for? What are you doing with it?
Because I want to be at least as armed as the people that want to do me harm.
Right.
I want to have at least as many guns as they do.
Okay.
No, these people are crazy. Look at in Brunswick, Georgia.
Yes, I know.
In Brunswick. What happened in Brunswick?
Yeah. What's his name?
Ahmaud
Arbery.
Ahmaud
Yeah.
Arbery. Yes.
Yeah.
Completely lost my train of thought there.
Well, Jan, in Texas, they do things differently. And remember, Texas was the state that proclaimed themselves their own sovereign nation.
They keep doing that.
We're a country all to ourselves. And remember, just a couple of weeks ago, Texas told people from California, you can't come here. Do not even think about coming here. Texas is closed off to all Californians. You are
I know what I
not
was going to
welcome
say.
here.
I changed my mind about Beto about 2 months ago when he was talking about Uvalde, and somebody in the crowd, some right winger, started laughing.
Oh, I loved his response.
Yeah, I got on his site and put in there, said, I didn't like you at first, but you have my vote now. The way he said it, you may think this is funny, mother. And
I know.
That to me,
amazing.
That solidified.
Well, when the Uvalde took place and he went to that press conference where the sheriff and the school superintendent and the police chief and dozen people were there, and he stood up to them and told them how wrong they were. Yep. I said, he got my vote. He got my vote. And he told them all that they were cowards, and that they allowed this to happen. And he was hotter than fish grease. And I was standing right there with him, hotter than fish and chicken grease, because he is right.
Okay, now you got to call people in Texas and tell them that.
Yes.
Because you live here, so I'm glad you got worked up, but you got to translate that into action.
Yeah, but people
absolutely.
I have some friends who, I don't vote, man. It doesn't mean anything, they're going to put in there who they want. And I try to talk to them over and over and over, especially one friend of mine. He won't vote. He won't get the vaccine. He's got all these things. And interestingly enough, he was in a motorcycle accident last year, and he was in pretty bad shape. And I said, man, if they were that nefarious, they would have given it to you in the hospital and you'd never know it. There's no way you would know it.
What'd he say?
Well, no, come on, man. He had some, off the wall excuses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
And I said, and if it was that nefarious, they would put it in the food. He said, well, it's probably already in the food. I said, so what are you going to do?
Okay.
What are you going to do? You can't get around it. Go get the shot, but he won't get the shot. So.
Well, is he still with us?
Yeah, he's still with us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
and
lift him up in prayer.
Yes, absolutely. That's all we can say and do.
Yes. Or as you say in Texas, God bless your heart.
God bless. Bless his heart.
Yes. Bless your heart. Yes.
That's right.
God bless your heart.
Which I think means something else, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes. A little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bless your heart. Yeah. Bless your heart. Yeah. But anyway, there's a lot of work to be done here, Jan. There's a lot of work to be done. And when you were city council, it was nothing like this.
I
It
know.
was nothing like this. Everything from housing to education
Yeah.
to healthcare to crime to the homeless issue to the suicide issue to and education. That's another topic that we didn't even touch on. There's
Yeah.
just so incredibly, just incredible things. And the inhumanity, how can that be changed? And that's an individual thing, to be
Yeah.
human to one another. But how can you set a standard in your district? How can you set a standard of humanity? How can you change the minds of so many people? Because this is crazy.
Well, you can personalize the stories. You can personalize what happens to people. You can talk about people's lives and how close we are. We're only 3 or 4 people removed from each other.
Yes.
And that's very true. I think in a city like this, it's always, it happened to me today where I called somebody up, with a question, and he said, well, aren't you Quentin's cousin? And I said, yeah, how do you know Quentin? And he said, well, he's my business partner. And, it's like that. I called somebody out. I didn't even know this person, but that happens a lot in this city. I'm sure it happens a lot in Texas.
Oh,
too.
yes, it does.
Yeah. And even I was in the Congressional Black Caucus just last weekend, and, to begin to make those connections from one family to the next family to the next family, it reminds me of the book, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, and why our parents' generation, came from the South and moved north and moved west for better opportunities. And, this is the fruit of that. It's the extension of our connectivity. And now it seems to be circling back in some ways because so many people are going back to the South. I spoke to Lou Gossett on Sunday. And, Lou used to live out here. And he came from Coney Island, and he'll say Brooklyn. And, he had many years of an incredible career out here. And now he's back there in Atlanta with Tyler Perry, and he seems, and he's working. And
there is a renaissance of Black people moving back to the South. Yes.
Yeah. And he mentioned John Amos had gone to a neighboring Southern state. And so I'm wondering, with people getting the cost of living, and maybe people are getting tired of the battle and maybe feeling that we're not headed in the right direction here in this state.
Well, Jen, let me say this, Jen. I think Black people really there's not a single city in this entire country where as a whole, Black people are doing well. A major city, LA, New York, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, as a whole, some places, yeah, I'm not saying 100%, but as a whole, we're not doing well. And I think people really need to take a look at that and say, well, maybe we need to do, because we're concentrated in these cities. And what they've done is they've put us into these cities, and the cities have become basically a big project. The big projects, like Nickerson Gardens and places like that. But it's the entire city. And we need to branch out from that. And, when you get down to some of these southern states, you can buy land much cheaper. And then life becomes a lot different. You're not running into the same sorts of things that you do.
Not the rat race. Yeah.
Yes, not the rat race. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is a very different, different kind of city. And I moved to Texas, Jan. And the difference between LA and Texas is mind-boggling. And there are people who don't like Texas or don't like Dallas, but you know what? I looked up the homeless situation, and what is being reported is it's close to over 100,000 people that are homeless in the city. I think that was county of Los Angeles. In the all of the Dallas County, the 3,400. Texas is a big state. Yes. Wow. 3,400, because they're not going to let it happen. Yeah. They are not going to let it happen. Even though the governor is a retard, they're not going to let it happen. Yeah. They're not, okay? No. It's not going to happen. Yes, Texas is a state where guns are carried. They're not going to let people sleep on the street. Right. They're not going to let the crime get out of control. They're not going to let people live in fear. You know what? Racism is everywhere. I'm in Pasadena. I pull out, try to go into the Starbucks on Lake, a very, very heavily populated area.
Yeah.
A white woman calls me at NIG. Yes, last month. So you know what? It's people create vision of their own, whether they have the truth or not. They're going to see it the way they want to. That's okay. But what we have done is we have infringed upon so many people for so many wrong reasons. The issues should not be such as they are. That's all I'm saying. And what I see is you've got to get in there to change this.
Yeah. Well, I won't be doing it alone, though. Just remember that.
Yes.
You know, I don't
do it by yourself.
No. Well, I don't have a Messiah complex, and I'm not going to say. And now everyone listen to the golden words that drip from my lips, and everything will be okay. We have to do this together, and I have to learn from you, and you'll learn from me, and it's got to be a team effort in order to be sustainable long after all of us are gone.
Yes. Yeah. And it's tough. It's very tough to see what we can do in a short period of time. I
don't know if it's tough. We just need to hear each other. And then I would need to take what you say and translate it into action with funding and be able to develop an implementation strategy that works through the network of community-based organizations and groups that we already work with, advocacy groups. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really and truly appreciate you being on. We all appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
And we are really pulling for you. We are pulling for you because we know you need to get in there and make the changes that are absolutely necessary, not only for the city of Los Angeles, but for the state of California. For the state of California. Okay. That's what is necessary. So we appreciate it. We thank you for being on with us. And we're sending you power. We're sending you love. We're sending you light. We're making sure that you have everything that you need to take over this seat and take over what has to happen here.
Thank you. And tell Kenny now, if I come to Texas, I'm not going to come up walking in your yard now. Just don't even worry about it. All right.
Yeah, but see, that's the good thing is that nobody sneaks up on you.
Loud and clear.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll recognize you, Jan.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good evening, and thank you so much, Jan. It's a pleasure. Take care. Have a good evening. And folks, thank you for joining us. We have been talking to the 37th candidate for the 37th congressional seat in LA. So come on out and join us. Election day is coming up and everybody's got to get out there and vote. Thank you for joining us, folks. This is the Intentional Talk Radio Network, and we thank you once again. Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Wear your mask. It ain't over. We'll talk with you soon. Tomorrow, we've got others coming on to talk about the election. So come on back. Be with us right here at itrmradio.com. Tomorrow in the mix, conversations with Collette and Corliss. It's another election day info. Come on back. We'll see you then. Take care.